This week, I want to shoot everybody a little ATS appreciation free download, as well as address some follow-up questions I had about different ways to digitize film for those of you with large or medium format film or a different macro lens than I talked about a couple of weeks ago. Well, happy holidays, everyone. It's Hudson. Welcome to this week's Approaching the Scene. I'm going to do kind of a quick one. I'm going to talk a bit about a different way of digitizing film, particularly for those of you who have large or medium format film or are working with a different system that isn't compatible with the Nikon film scanner that I talked about, or a different size macro lens. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to thank everyone who's subscribed, liked, shared this channel, and really contributed to the success and growth of this channel over the last year. Thanks so much to each and every one of you. A reminder that there's always a chaptered out table of contents, like chapters if you scroll along the timeline at the bottom of the video. In all the more recent videos, we're doing that, as well as a linked table of contents with time codes that just link in the video's description if you click on the video's title or show more depending on your platform. And I also have links to all of the products that I'm talking about and all the stuff that I use. Everything's in there in that video description. Those links help me out, so thank you so much in advance. So, today is really about answering a couple of your questions. You guys, through your questions, whether you email me or put comments in the YouTube channel, that really does drive the content. I pay a lot of attention to what you all are interested in. And I had a lot of questions after I did the digitizing film lesson a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to address that. But I also have a lot of questions about, you have so many videos. We have almost 130 approaching the scenes now over the last 130 weeks. And people are saying, how do I find the content that I'm interested in? So I've got a link. It's at hudsonhenry.com/allats, but I'll put a link in the video's description along with all the others. And if you go to that, we'll send you a list of all the ATS episodes from 001 to this, 127 or 128, that have the description of what is in that Approaching the Scene video, and a click link to just go straight to it. So it's an indexed list for you to go back and look through some of the lessons. And I want to point out a few highlights over the last year that have really stood out to me that I don't know, maybe you missed, maybe you've been around for, but ATS 73 was about planning moonrise and moonset shoots around full moon so that you can capture the landscape and the last bit of sunlight at the same time as the full moon is rising and get yourself in just the right position to do that. Approaching the Scene 92 was me sort of taking you along on an adventure trip back when I was filming a documentary on Denali, formerly Mount McKinley. And I thought that was a really fun one. Approaching the Scene 100 was really near and dear to me. It was an interview with my good friends and photo mentors, the long-time National Geographic photographers John Eastcott and Eva Momatuk, two of the coolest people around, and just talking about their life in photography and trends and what they're seeing and thinking about these days after a lifetime of creating images all over the world together. Approaching the Scene 103 was just going through start to finish it, re-editing a really old RAW file with new software and capabilities that we have now. And I think if that's not an advertisement for shooting in RAW instead of JPEG, nothing else is. And finally, really recently, I did an episode on how to capture and post-process high contrast scenes at Approaching the Scene 124. So I'll put links to each of those right up top, front, and center in the video's description. You just click right on those. But if you click on that all ATS link that I'm putting in there, hudsonhenry.com/all-ATS, you can get a list of all the Approaching the Scenes from the last year. So, all right, to kind of wrap things up, I want to address how to digitize film for those of you who don't want to purchase the 60mm macro lens to work with this Nikon ES2 adapter, or figure out how to adapt it to your Sony system or Canon system or Fuji system or what have you. Or maybe you can't find it just because it's out of stock everywhere. That's something I've kind of discovered recently. It's a tough one to get a hold of. So I would suggest, I've got right here a Matthew stand set up next to my desk with a Manfrotto Magic Arm. I'll put a link to that Magic Arm. I know not everybody has a big stable stand like this. You can also buy a copy stand. I'll put a copy stand link in there too. Basically, it's just something to get your camera vertical over a flat surface. And then one of these Kaiser Slimlight Plano light boards. And this thing is adjustable from dim to really bright. And it's a 95 CRI, really high quality LED light source. And they make different sizes. This is kind of the medium size, which I have room and I really like because it lets me throw on the cotton gloves and organize images and look through my loop and really check, what am I looking at in a negative or a slide. And you can lay your large format film. This is some 4x5 film I shot back in the day, or your medium format film. Here's one that's still in a sleeve, or your negative or your slide on here. If you've got some curl to it, you can find some creative ways to weight those down. Create your own kind of weighted black mask would be a good idea. But you set it down here, get it flat, get your camera suspended above it. I would suggest either using a tethered capture, whether your Lightroom or On1 tethered capture, so that you can check your exposure and sharpness right off the bat. But if you flip your screen up, you can zoom in, use the back of your camera, make sure that you've got that piece of film focused beautifully. And because it's laying flat on the surface, each one should be just about the same. You just move them in underneath the camera, line it up, shoot via a wireless, either cable release, or you can trigger it from your phone if you've got an unleashed like I like to use. I'll put a link in there for that too. So I'll put a link for these Kaiser lights, a Magic Arm, a copy stand, this loop, and some cotton gloves, all that stuff. And also to the video I did on capturing and editing negatives and slides with the ES2 Nikon adapter. So the process is almost identical. It's just you're gonna ramp this thing up to fully bright, shoot it, suspended from above your highest megapixel camera that you've got. I'm using the Z7. I'm finding the results are even better than my old dedicated film scanners of old, and definitely better than my flatbed scans that I've done in the past. And easier, quicker. It's just a fun way to do it. So, plus you get a RAW file in the process. Just shoot it in RAW. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope everyone's having a great holiday. I know it's a totally weird year, so maybe it's not quite as close and personal as we would all like for the holidays, but in whatever way you can, even if it's virtual, make sure that you're connecting with family, loved ones, being creative, being safe. And I just want to thank everybody for being such a great, great community. And we'll see you next week. Happy holidays.